I never thought peace could feel this quiet. Most mornings, I wake to the sound of wind brushing through the pines outside my kitchen window. The same sound Natalie used to say reminded her of home. She's been gone a few years now, but I still catch myself setting out 2 coffee mugs instead of 1. Habit, I suppose. Some habits die harder than others. Life had become simple, not empty, just still. The kind of stillness you earn after decades of work, after the noise of raising a family, after watching the person you loved most slip away before you were ready to let go. I'd filled my days with little projects around the house, long walks to the lake, and the occasional phone call from Ryan. Welcome, my friends, and thank you for joining me today. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city and your country in the comments. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story like this one. Now let's begin. Ryan is my only son. Smart, ambitious, and always trying to fix things that weren't broken. He started calling more often after Natalie passed. At first, it felt good. He'd ask about my meals, my health, and how I was sleeping. It felt like he was finally stepping into the kind of care I once showed him. But soon, his questions started to change. Dad, do you ever get confused balancing all those accounts? Maybe I could help you sort through your investments. Wouldn't it be easier if I managed everything for you? At first, I laughed it off. I told him, son, I may move a little slower these days, but I can still read numbers just fine. He'd chuckle, but there was always something underneath that laugh, a tone I couldn't quite name back then. That afternoon in early spring, Ryan pulled into the driveway unannounced. I was trimming the hedges when I saw his silver truck stop at the gate. He got out carrying a leather briefcase and that confident grin he inherited from his mother. Dad, he said, walking up the path, I was in the area for a client meeting and thought I'd check in. That was a lie. Ryan never just checked in. We sat in the kitchen. He looked around, the photos, the quiet, the old wooden table. You really should consider moving closer to the city, he said. It's safer. Easier. I smiled, pouring him coffee. I've got everything I need right here, son. He hesitated, then opened his briefcase. I actually wanted to talk to you about something important. A family trust. The words landed like a stone. He slid a stack of papers across the table. It's just a way to make sure everything's handled smoothly, your estate, your savings, the house. You'd still have access, but I'd co-manage things so if anything happened. I held up my hand. Ryan, nothing's happening to me. Not yet. He forced a smile. I know, Dad. It's just, you've got a lot to manage. You shouldn't have to do it alone. I studied his face, that calm, professional look he wore when selling something. His words were gentle, but his tone felt rehearsed. Calculated. I told him I'd think about it. He seemed pleased enough with that answer and left after lunch. That evening, I walked out back to Natalie's garden. The air was cool, and the sky carried that soft orange hue she always loved. I remember telling her once that our son would grow up to be a good man, that he'd always have our values. For the first time, I wasn't so sure. The next morning, I went to the bank to check on some routine transfers. I'd known the manager, Tom Reynolds, for 20 years. As we talked, he frowned at his monitor. Mr. Whitmore, he said quietly, there was a login attempt on your account yesterday from a different location, Charlotte. I blinked. Charlotte? I've been in Asheville all week. He turned the screen toward me. It was denied. Wrong password after 3 tries. I asked if he could tell who it was, but he just looked uncomfortable. Let's just say, he muttered, sometimes family means well, but goes about it the wrong way. When I got home, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at the coffee mug Ryan used. It was still there, beside mine, with a faint ring at the bottom. The papers he'd brought lay unopened. I thought about calling him, demanding an explanation. But something inside told me not to. Instead, I locked the documents away and made a quiet promise to myself: if he wanted control, he'd have to earn it the hard way. That night, as I turned off the lights and walked past Natalie's photo on the mantel, I paused. Her smile was soft, frozen in a moment I wished I could return to. I whispered to her the same words I'd once said when Ryan was just a boy, when we worried he might lose his way. You always said never to hand someone your peace. What if that person is your son? Please tell me in the comment section, would you allow your son to control your money? I'll be reading. The next few days after Ryan's visit felt longer than they should have. I kept busy, fixing a loose porch board, cleaning the gutters, pretending life was normal. But quiet has a way of echoing when something's not right. Every creak in the house felt like a reminder I wasn't imagining things. My son, the boy I once trusted with my tools, my truck, my time, was trying to take control of my life. Still, I didn't let anger make the first move. Natalie used to say, never act on a feeling that's still hot, you'll burn the wrong thing down. So, I decided to cool it down. I went through every document I had, my will, bank statements, deeds, and realized how exposed I really was. Everything had my name, my signature, my handwriting. If Ryan were bold enough to file something in court, I'd look unprepared, maybe even vulnerable. That night, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Marilyn Jenkins. We'd known each other since my working days in property management. She was now an estate attorney in Charlotte. Straight-talking, sharp, and loyal. The kind of woman who could smell a lie before it left your mouth. She answered on the second ring. Nathan Whitmore, she said, half laughing, I haven't heard that name since the conference days. What's got you calling me after all this time? I need a friend who knows how to protect what matters, I said quietly. By the following morning, I was in her office. The city always feels louder than it used to, horns, chatter, people in a rush to nowhere. I sat across from her, and when I finished explaining what happened, she didn't say anything for a moment. Just leaned back, arms crossed, and studied me. Ryan's your only child, right? She asked finally. Yes. And he's already been asking about your assets? More than asking. He brought legal papers. Said it was for a family trust. She sighed. Nathan, I've seen this before. When an adult child starts using the phrase for your own good, they're usually building a case to prove you can't handle your finances. Guardianship petitions, power of attorney transfers, it's all legal ways to take control. Her words hit harder than I expected. I felt my throat tighten. You think he'd go that far? Marilyn leaned forward. If he's been talking to anyone about your health, your memory, even your daily routine, yes. Once they paint the picture, the court believes them. I stared at the wood grain on her desk, tracing invisible lines with my finger. Then I need to stay one step ahead. She nodded. Then we start quietly. You'll open a new trust under a separate entity name. Something only you and I know exists. We'll move your core assets there and keep your original accounts as decoys. The word decoy gave me a strange sense of calm. It meant I wasn't helpless, I was choosing my silence. Over the next week, Marilyn handled the legal work while I played the part of the peaceful retiree. I answered Ryan's calls, talked about the weather and ball games, and kept the tone friendly. Every conversation I had with him, I recorded, just in case. At night, I'd sit by Natalie's photo and tell her about my day, like I used to when she was alive. You'd be proud, I'd whisper. I'm staying patient. You always said calm isn't weakness, it's control. By Friday, the new trust was active under the name Mountain Haven Holdings. Ryan had no clue. But something about his next phone call told me he could sense my distance. He sounded softer, too polite. Dad, Bella, and I were thinking of visiting this weekend. Maybe cook dinner together. You've been on your own too long. Dinner sounds nice, I said. What time should I expect you? Saturday evening, they arrived with a bottle of wine and too many smiles. Bella hugged me first, the kind of hug people give when they're trying to measure you. She looked polished, elegant, too practiced for comfort. Ryan cooked while Bella made small talk. "You must miss Natalie," she said, stirring a pot of sauce. "Ryan says she was wonderful." "She was," I replied. "Still is, in her own way." Her eyes flicked to the living room, where my briefcase sat. Just a glance, quick, but I noticed. When dinner was over, they insisted on cleaning up. I pretended not to notice when Ryan pocketed his phone after snapping a photo of the cabinet where I kept important papers. After they left, I sat at the table in silence. The scent of garlic lingered in the air. Their laughter still echoed faintly in the hall. I picked up the phone and called Marilyn. "They're pretending again," I told her. She sighed. "That means they're planning. Nathan, I've seen families tear each other apart over less. If he moves through the courts, he could take everything, even the house." Her words hung in the air like smoke. I looked toward the dark window, my reflection barely visible against the night. And for the first time, I didn't feel afraid, just certain. If he was going to come for everything, I'd be ready long before he arrived. Do you think silence is my best defense, or am I playing with fire by keeping calm? Please tell me in the comments section. The envelope came on a Tuesday morning. No return address. No warning. Just a thick stack of papers with my name printed across the top in bold type, "Petition for Guardianship." I remember standing at the mailbox, the sound of birds overhead, the chill in the air, and that quiet disbelief that hits when betrayal finally wears a face. I sat down on the porch steps, turning each page slowly, my hands shaking just slightly. Ryan's name was listed as the petitioner. The claim? That I was no longer capable of managing my financial and personal affairs. It was written in perfect legal language, clinical, detached, and devastating. At the bottom, the petition requested full authority over my estate, my accounts, and my home. Everything. I didn't move for a while. I just stared at the signature line where my son's name sat in black ink. My own son, declaring me unfit. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with Natalie's photo, the only light coming from the lamp beside her picture. I thought about every moment I'd trusted Ryan, every chance I gave him, every time I defended him when others doubted his motives. I wanted to feel angry, but what I felt instead was empty. By morning, the emptiness turned into clarity. If Ryan wanted to play this through the courts, I'd meet him there, but I wouldn't fight with fire. I'd fight with calm. Marilyn met me at the courthouse 2 weeks later. She had her briefcase, her confidence, and a look that said she'd seen this kind of betrayal before. As we waited outside the courtroom, she placed a hand on my arm. "Remember, Nathan, stay composed. They'll be looking for weakness." "I know," I said. "But the thing about calmness is, they'll mistake it for surrender." When the doors opened, I saw Ryan and Bella seated on the other side. He looked polished in a navy suit. She wore soft colors, her face set in that expression that invites sympathy. They were perfectly coordinated, like they'd practiced for this moment. The judge entered, a woman with sharp eyes and a patient tone. The hearing began. Ryan's attorney stood first, laying out the case. "Mr. Whitmore's cognitive capacity has declined. There are inconsistencies in his account management. He's shown confusion regarding documents, and his behavior demonstrates an increasing need for oversight." I listened in silence, my hands folded in my lap. Ryan nodded along, pretending to look heartbroken. When it was his turn to speak, his voice was careful, deliberate. "I just want what's best for my dad. He's always been my hero, but lately, he's been different. Forgetting things. Getting overwhelmed by paperwork. I'm just trying to help." He looked at me then, with a rehearsed sadness that almost fooled me, almost. Bella's turn came next. She spoke with tears in her eyes, talking about concern, love, and protection. The judge seemed to listen closely. For a brief second, I felt my chest tighten. They were good at this. Too good. When Marilyn rose, her voice was steady. "Your Honor, my client may be older, but he's far from incapable. In fact, we have recent recordings of conversations that show clear decision-making, and something else the court should hear. Ryan stiffened. His attorney frowned. She clicked play on her tablet. Ryan's voice filled the courtroom, the recording from 2 weeks earlier. Dad, you don't even look at your accounts anymore. You wouldn't even notice if I transferred something for you. Then my voice, calm, even. That's why I still keep my records in handwriting, Ryan. Not everyone forgets who they are that easily. The room went silent. Even the judge looked surprised. Ryan's face drained of color. Bella's hand slipped from his arm. Marilyn continued, as you can hear, my client was fully aware of the financial discussions taking place and was not confused or misled. The claim of incapacity is without merit. The judge leaned back, her tone curt. Petition denied. Just like that, it was over. Ryan tried to speak, but the judge had already moved on to the next case. Outside the courtroom, he approached me in the hallway. Dad, this was a misunderstanding. Bella thought. I raised a hand. Stop. He froze. I told you once, I said quietly, control isn't the same as care. You're confusing the two. He opened his mouth again, but no words came out. Bella stood behind him, her expression changing from embarrassment to something colder, calculating. She didn't look angry at the loss. She looked focused. That look told me what I needed to know, this wasn't over. I turned to leave, Marilyn walking beside me. She said, that recording saved everything. Without it, they might have won. I nodded. It wasn't about winning. It was about showing him I'm still the man he's trying to erase. As we stepped out into the sunlight, I caught sight of Ryan in the courthouse window behind us, still standing there, shoulders tense, Bella whispering something in his ear. She glanced my way. For a split second, her eyes met mine, and I saw something that made my stomach tighten. Not anger. Not defeat. A plan. I got in the car, started the engine, and pulled onto the road. But as I passed the courthouse, I couldn't stop thinking. If that was their first strike, what's waiting behind it? If your child tried something like this and lost, would you give them another chance, or cut them off completely? Please let me know what you would do. It was a little after midnight when the phone rang. No one calls that late unless it's bad news. I reached for it half asleep, expecting maybe Marilyn or one of my old neighbors. But the voice on the other end made my stomach tighten. Mr. Whitmore? This is Tom Reynolds from First Federal Bank. I'm sorry to disturb you, sir, but I thought you'd want to know, someone tried to access your account tonight. I sat up, heart pounding. What do you mean, access? Well, Tom said, lowering his voice, someone tried to log into your online account using your full credentials. We flagged it because the attempt came from a different state, Georgia. The system locked the profile automatically. I rubbed my forehead. Georgia? Yes, sir. Savannah, to be exact. My house fell silent again except for the faint hum of the fridge down the hall. Can you tell who? I asked. Tom hesitated. Technically, I can't share personal information without a subpoena, but since you've banked with us for 30 years, let's just say the IP address was registered to a Bella Hartman. Does that name mean anything to you? The name hit like a cold wind. Yes, I said slowly. That's my daughter-in-law. Tom exhaled through the phone. I figured I should call before we escalate it. You'll need to reset everything, passwords, PINs, security questions. Do it before morning. I thanked him, hung up, and sat in the dark. Ryan had tried to take my money once, publicly, legally. Now Bella was coming in quietly, through the back door. For a long time, I didn't move. I just looked around my quiet home, the walls holding decades of life, and felt something shift inside me. Not anger this time, clarity. The next morning, I called Marilyn. She answered before the first ring finished. Nathan? What's wrong? I need you to look into someone, I said. Bella Hartman. She paused. Ryan's wife? Yes. But something tells me that's not her only name. Marilyn didn't ask questions. Give me a day. When you've lived long enough, you learn to let truth come in its own time. I spent the rest of the day pretending to garden, though my hands just dug the same patch of soil over and over. By evening, Marilyn called back. Her tone told me she'd found more than she expected. You were right, she said. Her legal name is Isabella Crane. She changed it about 6 years ago after filing for bankruptcy in Florida. Before that, she went by Belle Carter. There's a record of financial fraud, small business embezzlement, charges dropped after a settlement. I leaned against the counter. Ryan knows? I doubt it. There's no marriage license filed under her previous names. She covered her tracks well. If she's behind these new account attempts, this isn't her first time. It felt like the floor beneath me tilted slightly. So she's the one pulling the strings, I murmured. Marilyn's voice softened. Maybe Ryan's being used. Maybe he's complicit. Either way, you're sitting on a powder keg. We'll need to protect every asset immediately. I hung up and walked to the living room window. Outside, the porch light cast long shadows across the driveway. I half expected Ryan's car to appear again, headlights crawling up the gravel. Instead, I saw my reflection in the glass, older, steadier, but not broken. Natalie used to say that love blinds you to danger until it starts costing you peace. I wondered if Ryan even realized what he'd traded away to keep Bella close. By morning, I was ready to act. I opened my laptop and wrote a short email to Marilyn. Let's set the next stage quietly. I want to make sure she walks right into it. Then I called Tom Reynolds. Tom, I said, keep the alert active. If that IP address tries again, don't block it immediately. Let it go through a decoy account first. I want to see what they're after. He hesitated. That's risky, Mr. Whitmore. I know, I said. But sometimes you learn more by staying still than by striking first. For the next 2 days, I went about my routine, grocery runs, the morning walk, and small talk with the neighbors. I didn't mention the court case, or the late-night call, or the hollow silence that followed every time Ryan's name popped up on my phone. By Thursday, I got another call from Tom. She tried again, sir. This time, she accessed the dummy account. She downloaded statements, account summaries, and even balance sheets. Good, I said. That's exactly what I wanted. I hung up and sat at my desk, looking at the digital trail she'd just left. Every move she made was recorded, every click timestamped. Ryan might think I was too old to understand technology. Bella clearly thought I was too trusting to notice her game. They both forgot, calm doesn't mean naive. That night, I looked at Natalie's photo again and whispered, you always said the hardest part of revenge is waiting long enough to make it worth something. For the first time, I smiled. Because this wasn't just about defense anymore. It was about preparation. And now that I knew who Bella really was, I could finally start planning how to take everything back, piece by piece, quietly, perfectly. But one question wouldn't leave me. If Bella fooled Ryan, who taught her how to do it so well? Do you think Bella truly loves Ryan, or was he just her next target? I've always believed patience is the sharpest blade a man can wield. When you rush, you cut yourself. But when you wait, really wait, you can make a single move that ends the whole game. That thought stayed with me the morning I drove back to First Federal Bank. The air was cool, the parking lot mostly empty. Inside, Tom Reynolds was already waiting in his office, coffee steaming on the desk. He gave me a curious look as I closed the door behind me. So, he said, what exactly are we doing here, Mr. Whitmore? I smiled faintly. You ever hear the phrase, give them enough rope? Tom leaned back, arms crossed. Can't say I have in this context. I sat down. We're going to build a mirror account, a duplicate of my primary holdings. On paper, it'll look like the real one. The same transactions, the same transfers, the same balance. But behind the surface, every dollar will be fake. Every record will lead to nothing. Tom blinked. You're serious? Very, I said. You already confirmed Bella accessed a decoy. That means she's searching for leverage, proof that I'm hiding something or losing control. If I give her what she's looking for, she'll walk straight into the evidence trail. He frowned. Isn't that risky? I shrugged. Only if I lose my calm. Tom studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right. I'll set up the mirrored database. It won't connect to any live funds, just a sandbox system. You'll be able to see who logs in, when, and what they take. Perfect, I said. We spent the next 2 hours building it. Every detail mattered. The account balances matched my real holdings down to the cent. The transaction logs looked authentic. Even the investment portfolios mirrored my legitimate ones. But there was one crucial difference, a quiet watermark buried deep in the data, something only visible when printed. A legal signature from the decoy entity, Mountain Haven Holdings, embedded with traceable metadata. If Bella downloaded or shared anything, that invisible mark would prove she'd been inside something she wasn't supposed to touch. By the time we finished, Tom shook his head in disbelief. You've got the patience of a chess master, Nathan. I chuckled. No. Just a man who's been underestimated one time too many. When I got home that afternoon, I felt something I hadn't in months, peace. Not the kind that comes from winning, but the kind that comes from knowing the board is finally set the way you want it. The next few days passed quietly. Ryan called once, his voice lighter than usual. Hey, Dad. Bella and I were thinking of hosting a barbecue this weekend. You should come by. We want to put all that court stuff behind us. Sure, I said evenly. Send me the address. He laughed, a little too cheerfully. It's the same house, Dad. We're not running away. I smiled to myself. No, I suppose you're not. When I hung up, I could almost hear Natalie's voice in my head, don't meet anger with anger. Meet deceit with patience. By Friday, the barbecue invitation had come and gone. I stayed home, pretending to rest, but in truth, I was watching. Tom had set up a live dashboard on my computer. Every attempted login, every data pull, every access location appeared in real time. At first, nothing. Then, around midnight on Sunday, my phone buzzed. A single message from Tom. They're in. I turned on the computer. The screen came alive with activity, IP address, Savannah, Georgia. User tag, Bella. Hartman. She was back. I leaned closer as the data scrolled across the monitor. She was methodical, downloading statements, cross-checking balances, even reviewing transaction logs. Everything about her actions screamed precision. Then something new appeared on the screen, device ID, Ryan MacBook. My hand froze on the mouse. She wasn't alone. Ryan was there with her. They believed the court loss was temporary. That this was their way to strike again, not through lawyers this time, but through proof they thought could expose my hidden accounts. But what they didn't know was that every document, every number, every detail they were collecting was fabricated by my own hand. It wasn't revenge born of rage. It was clarity, a slow, quiet correction. I sat back, watching the green progress bar fill across the screen. When it hit 100%, I whispered softly into the empty room. I knew you couldn't resist. For a long time, I just watched the data flow. The fake transactions, the false balances, the timestamped downloads, each one another step into the trap. Somewhere in Savannah, Ryan and Bella thought they were winning again. They were probably smiling, feeling clever, convincing themselves they were restoring their rightful place in my affairs. But patience has a way of bending the game in favor of those who can wait longest. And tonight, I wasn't just waiting. I was recording. The calmest storms, after all, are the ones you never see coming. Would you have gone this far to teach them a lesson, or let karma handle it? Let me know in the comments. It was almost noon when I saw their car pull up. Same silver SUV, spotless as ever. Bella stepped out first, her sunglasses reflecting the porch. Ryan followed with that practiced half-smile, the one he wore whenever he needed to look like the dutiful son. I stayed seated at the kitchen table, coffee steaming in front of me, and waited. The knock came 3 times, polite, cautious. "Come in," I called. They entered with the kind of energy that tries too hard to feel natural. "Dad," Ryan said, a little too loudly. "We were just in the neighborhood and thought we'd stop by." Bella's voice followed, syrupy smooth. "We brought muffins. From that bakery you like in town." She placed the box on the counter, glancing subtly toward the briefcase on the chair beside me. She thought I didn't notice. I smiled. "Nice of you both to visit. Coffee's hot if you want some." They sat across from me. Ryan looked around the kitchen, familiar, warm, unchanged. "You've been keeping busy, huh?" "I try," I said. "Routine keeps the mind sharp." He nodded, but his eyes drifted toward the old clock on the wall, a nervous habit. Bella reached over and patted his hand. "Dad," she began softly, "we've been thinking. After everything that happened with the court and all that noise, maybe it's time we moved past it. We want to make sure you're comfortable. Financially. Emotionally." I sipped my coffee slowly. "Financially," I repeated. "That's thoughtful of you." She smiled, but her eyes didn't match. "You've worked hard your whole life. You deserve to rest. And maybe, let others handle the complicated parts." Ryan nodded, trying to look casual. "We've actually been reviewing some of your accounts, just to see where things stand. You know, helping you organize things better." I looked at him carefully, the calm steadiness in my chest. "Oh, I see. You've been reviewing my accounts?" Bella shifted slightly in her seat, her confidence flickering for just a moment. "Yes," Ryan said quickly, "just small things. Balances, transactions. Nothing serious." I said, setting down my cup. "That's interesting, because I made a few changes recently. Would you like to see?" Bella's posture straightened. "Changes?" I opened the briefcase beside me and pulled out a thin folder. Inside were printed statements, the mirror account data. Every page was stamped with the watermark that only Marilyn and I knew existed. I slid the papers across the table toward them. "Everything's been transferred to the Whitmore Foundation," I said calmly. "A charitable fund I created for community housing and veteran support. Every asset. Every cent." Ryan blinked. "Wait, what foundation?" Bella's hand trembled slightly as she picked up the papers. This says the transfers were finalized 3 days ago." "That's right," I said. "Fully executed. Nothing left to manage." Ryan frowned, confused. "But, Dad, you can't just move everything. You need oversight. Advisors. We could have helped with that." I leaned back. "Oh, I know. You tried." Bella's eyes flickered to her phone as it buzzed on the table. She reached for it, and then froze. Her expression shifted from curiosity to dread in an instant. Ryan noticed. "What is it?" She didn't answer. Her fingers tightened around the phone. I spoke quietly. "That would be Tom Reynolds. He just triggered a fraud alert for the account you accessed last night, the one you thought held my real money." Her face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" "The mirror account," I said. "The one you and Ryan logged into from Savannah. Every login, every download, every timestamp, recorded." Ryan turned to her, disbelief on his face. "Bella, what is he saying?" She stammered, I was just checking." I cut in, my voice low but steady. "No, you were stealing. You didn't just try to take money, you tried to take trust. And that's worth a lot more than any balance." Ryan's voice cracked. "Dad, she wouldn't." "She would," I said. "She did. And she used your computer to do it." He went silent, His hands shook as he stared at her, realization slowly sinking in. Bella stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. "This is ridiculous. I don't need to listen to this." "Don't worry," I said, "you won't have to for long. Tom's already forwarded the login evidence to Marilyn. She's preparing the report." Bella's lips parted, but no words came. She turned, stormed toward the door, and slammed it behind her. The house went still. Ryan sat back down, staring at the table, at the papers that proved his wife had led him into this mess. He looked older suddenly. Smaller. I stood and walked to the counter, refilling my cup. "Coffee's still hot," I said softly. "You should have some. You'll need it." He didn't look up. "Dad." "I didn't know." "I believe you," I said. "But believing doesn't erase the damage." He exhaled, his voice breaking. "What happens now?" I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said quietly, "You've lost more than money today, son." Outside, I heard Bella's car engine start and fade into the distance. Inside, only silence remained, heavy, but honest for the first time in months. And yet, even in that silence, one thought lingered like an echo. If deceit could destroy a family, maybe truth could rebuild it, but only if Ryan was strong enough to face it. At this point, do you think I should forgive Ryan, or let him feel the full weight of his choices? The house was quiet again. Too quiet. Ryan sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where he'd once done homework, where Natalie used to serve Sunday pancakes and tease him for eating too fast. Now there was only the ticking clock and the sound of our breathing, uneven, distant, tired. He looked nothing like the confident man who'd walked into court weeks ago. His shoulders sagged, his eyes were red, and the silence between us felt heavier than anger. "I didn't know," he said finally, his voice low. "I swear, Dad, I didn't know what she was doing. She said she was helping, that you'd been reckless with your accounts." I studied him for a long time. He wasn't lying. His voice cracked in a way that told me this wasn't a performance. "I believed her," he continued. "She said you were hiding money from the family. That you were losing control. I thought I was protecting you. By declaring me unfit?" I asked quietly. He looked down, ashamed. "I thought it was temporary. That once the accounts were safe, I'd hand them back. I never meant to hurt you." There it was, the confession I'd waited for, though it didn't feel like victory. It just felt hollow. I poured 2 cups of coffee and placed one in front of him. He didn't reach for it. "When your mother got sick," I said, "I learned what control really means. It's not about holding everything tight. It's about letting go of what doesn't deserve your peace. That's something you never learned, Ryan." He stared at me, eyes glassy. "I see that now." I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. "You wanted control, not care. You wanted power, not peace. But now you'll learn to live without either." He looked up, confusion flickering in his eyes. "The calm I prepared," I said softly, "wasn't just for you. It was for me." He swallowed hard. "So that's it? You're cutting me off?" "No," I said. "I'm letting you go." He frowned. "Is there a difference?" "There's when love's still in the equation," I replied. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he nodded slowly, as if something inside him finally gave way. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "But I'll earn it if there's still a way." I didn't answer. Some lessons don't need words, they need time. He stood, looked around the room one last time, then walked toward the door. Before stepping outside, he paused. "She's gone," he said. "Bella left this morning. Packed everything." "I know," I said. "She was always leaving something." He managed a faint, bitter smile. Then he was gone. When the sound of his car faded down the road, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The house felt different now, not empty, just honest. I walked to the living room and sat beside Natalie's photo. The evening sun poured through the window, washing her face in a soft orange glow. I picked up the frame and whispered, "You were right, Nat. Revenge doesn't bring peace, calm does." The words felt final, but not sad. Outside, the sky was turning gold and lavender, that brief moment when the day gives up its fight with the night. I watched it quietly, the weight on my chest slowly lifting. Then my phone buzzed. It was an email notification from the Whitmore Foundation. I opened it, half expecting a report from Marilyn about the final filings. Instead, I saw one line that made me pause. New donation received, $50,000. Donor, anonymous. Designation, Natalie Whitmore Memorial Fund. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. Then I smiled. A real smile. Ryan. He didn't sign his name, but I knew. The timing, the amount, the name, it was his way of speaking without words. His way of saying sorry. I leaned back in my chair, the phone still glowing in my hand. The sound of crickets rose outside, blending with the faint hum of the evening breeze. Maybe this was what Natalie meant when she said forgiveness isn't something you give, it's something that grows when anger finally runs out of air. I set the phone down beside her photo, the reflection of the sunset flickering across the glass. For the first time in months, the house felt peaceful again. Not perfect. Just still. As I watched the last line of sunlight fade across the table, a quiet thought formed in my mind, not bitter, not angry, just curious. Do people change because they're punished, or because they finally understand? The clock ticked once more. And for the first time, I didn't need an answer. What do you think truly changed Ryan in the end, regret, loss, or love? I'd love to know. Thank you for staying to the end. Please check out the next story on your screen, it's as beautiful as this one.